of the Denver Nuggets even trying to stop him. So, Matt, how many business decisions do you count on this one play?
George, when the train's on the tracks, get out the way. I don't think anyone wanted to try to take a charge or even stop him. He might have got away with a little travel, but still very impressive for year 18 for LeBron.
Yeah, no doubt. Get out the way. Just like Ludacris said one day. Welcome to The Jump. I'm George Sedano, in for our fearless leader, Rachel Nichols. I'm joined by NBA champion and one half of the All the Smoke podcast, Matt Barnes. Clint Yates from The Undefeated will join us in just a moment. Coming up, Kyrie tells James Harden he's the designated point guard of the Brooklyn Nets. Is that BS or real talk? We'll discuss that a little later. But first, Anthony Davis bumped legs with Nikola Jokic late in the second quarter on Sunday. He left the game and did not return. Davis sat out 2 games last week to rest that same Achilles injury that he had. So, Matt, let me ask you this. What do you make of this particular situation the Lakers find themselves in if AD has to sit out an extended period of time?
Well, George, this worries me a little bit. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this started last year in the playoffs, in the finals, where he kind of tweaked it. Obviously, a short off season. He didn't really get to rest it as long as possible. And I think our colleague Richard Jefferson point, you could be great and false move can re-aggravate it. It looks like that's what happened last night. If they have to miss AD for an extended amount of time during the regular season, I think they can keep the ship afloat. But for any championship aspirations, we all know AD has to be at his best.
So who has to step up the most in this situation, Matt, if you're the Lakers?
I think it's a tough situation because people are talking about, do you raise LeBron's minutes? Someone that first comes to mind is Montrezl Harrell, someone who's been having a great season that they picked up and acquired from the Clippers. I think his role increases. But normally, it's always the next man up mentality. But when you lose a star like AD and we're not sure how long he's going to be down, it's going to take a team effort to kind of accumulate what he was able to do by himself.
All right, we now welcome in senior NBA insider and the best in the business, Adrian Wojnarowski. So, Woj, what is the latest on AD's Achilles?
Yeah, guys, he's getting that MRI, I'm told, in Denver, where the team played last night. And, they'll get a sense of if there's any more damage or anything that they've got to account for in that re-aggravation. But I think you can expect that Anthony Davis is going to sit for a period of time here, perhaps maybe even through until the All-Star break, which is March 5th to the 10th. But they need to see that MRI. He needs to go through that process, and then there will be a timeline from there. But I think you heard Anthony Davis last night. It's obvious they're going to be cautious with this, and they need him to stay healthy. They need this to not be a lingering issue for them. And so I think you'll expect that, Anthony Davis probably is not going to play here for a period of time until they get him past this, hopefully.
Well, this team obviously has a ton of depth. They added a lot of depth here in the offseason. When you look at just kind of the current makeup of the roster, we were just talking about it, Matt and I, who needs to step up in these situations?
Well, I think, certainly for the Lakers, Kyle Kuzma probably playing, a more significant role, wanting to get great consistency out of him. Matt mentioned, Montrezl Harrell. You're going to have to see if you lose a player of Anthony Davis's stature for a period of time, you're going to have to see guys elevate all over the team. There's only so much you can ask of LeBron. You can't. Listen, they can't, and certainly they know this, you can't ask too much from LeBron in a regular season stretch. He has played, he's been there every night this year. He's probably the front runner for the MVP. But I think most importantly, like if you're the Lakers, you're not worried about seeding. You're not worried about home court advantage, especially in this season, perhaps without fans. But this is a group that knows if it's healthy, if Anthony Davis is at the top of his game, they'll play anybody anywhere in the postseason. They just need him to be healthy.
Woj, you've got a story out in regards to what's going on in Detroit. What is the situation between Blake Griffin and the Pistons at the moment?
Yeah, Blake Griffin, their GM Troy Weaver told me today, is not going to be in the lineup here moving forward. They're going to look for a trade, and certainly buyout discussions could be part of a focus here. At some point, Griffin's owed over $50 million on this year and next year's contract. It's really going to be difficult to trade him and to find a deal where money could match up for where Blake is in his career right now. But it's been amicable. They've loved really the way Blake has handled what's been a tough spot for a player of his stature, being in the middle of a rebuild in Detroit. And I think for both sides, to allow him to step away, let his agent and the team, work through something. And I think there's going to be a marketplace for Blake Griffin. Perhaps it's in the buyout market if his agent, Sam Goldfeder with XL and Troy Weaver and Detroit get to that. But for now, they'll keep looking at the trade market. And if you're bringing in a Blake Griffin, a contending team, you want him for the playoffs. There's no rush to get him on your roster, perhaps right now. But listen, he's a player who, while he doesn't play above the rim anymore, he's not the all-NBA Blake Griffin that people remember. He still has shown this season, to be a pretty efficient offensive player. He's shooting. You see him obviously stepping out, shooting the three. Played a back-to-back last week and played well. Helped Detroit win in Boston. So there will be a market for Blake Griffin. Hard to imagine, though, it may be via trade.
So let's bring in Matt Barnes again here, NBA champion. Matt, how desirable is Blake Griffin on the market from what you've seen out of him thus far?
I think a healthy Blake Griffin is very desirable. Now, is he 100% healthy? I'm not sure. I think gone are the Lob City days of Blake Griffin. But, like Woj pointed out, he still has worked on his game and is an efficient offensive player. So he can definitely help a playoff contending team down the stretch. I agree. I think most likely it's going to be in the buyout space considering how much money he's still owed. But Blake can still definitely contribute to a team that's going to try to make a run for a championship.
And finally, Woj, there's a similar situation in Cleveland with Andre Drummond. What do we know about that?
It is similar, and he, like Blake Griffin, he will, he's going to separate from the Cavaliers here. He's not going to be active anymore for them. They're going to work on trades. He's got only 1 year left on his deal. He's an expiring contract, around $28 million. Perhaps there might be some avenues where a trade is possible, but still very difficult. He may be another player who ends up in the buyout market. They haven't had those conversations yet. I think his goal is for Cleveland to find a trade, but they're transitioning to Jared Allen as their center of the future, 22 years old, and putting him with that young group of guards and wings they have in Cleveland. And the idea, I think, to share time with a young player, given where Drummond is in his career, a player who's been a two-time All-Star, very similarly makes sense for him to step away and allow the team and his agent to see what they can find out in the marketplace.
Matt, which team, you get to play fantasy GM, which team is a good fit for Andre Drummond?
I think to be able to go where Jared Allen came from, if he can, tighten up that front line over in Brooklyn and split time with DeAndre Jordan, I think that would be a good fit. Drummond still has, a lot left in the tank. I just think him understanding what his game is. I think he needs to understand that he's a rebounder, a shot blocker, a lob catcher, and a paint protector, and kind of stick with that and go with that. Big body, still has some, a lot of juice left. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands. But I also agree. I think it'll be a buyout situation. Although he is in his last year of his contract, to me, it looks like a buyout situation. But he can definitely, again, similar to Blake Griffin, similar to Kevin Love, can help a team that's contending for a title if healthy.
Woj, obviously you're not reporting anything here, but we're asking you to kind of speculate in regards to who would be in that market for Andre Drummond. Would the Nets make some sense, and are there others in your opinion?
Yeah, I do think there would be interest from Brooklyn in, again, maybe it's the buyout market. It's hard to see how the contracts line up. I know this right now. Cleveland, I'm told, has not really been engaged in any serious conversations on a trade. They're going to, really continue to try to navigate the marketplace, see what might work. Sometimes there's 3-team scenarios, and a bigger salary can be part of a broader deal, but it's hard in a one right now. for Andre Drummond to see where that is. But then in the end, he'd have to decide he wants to do a buyout, and he's not shown any inclination that that's something he's interested in right now. So we'll monitor it. We'll see how that plays out. But certainly, there's a great need in Brooklyn. He fits the profile perfectly, but can they find a way to acquire him?
Man, basketball never stops, and things are only just heating up. He is the best in the business. Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
All right. After the break, Giannis.